Weaponized incompetence ruined our vacation. I didn't know the bride, Mindy, very well. We had one mutual friend, Laura, who Mindy met in college, and I've known since middle school. We were in Laura's wedding together, visited Laura together once in her new home state, and we'd probably hung out a grand total of 10 times. After getting a box with some expensive junk in it, I felt pressured to say yes, and I knew Laura would be involved. I love Laura, so I did. The engagement was 1.5 years long. In that time, I got engaged as well, and Laura started her own event floral business. My engagement was pretty short, 10 months. I already had a venue in mind. They happened to have a date that worked, and we locked it in. The only downside, it was 3 weeks before Mindy's wedding, in a completely different part of the country. But we wanted a fall wedding, and that's just kind of how wedding season goes in your 20s. Before I share more, I need you to know that Laura is a saint. She's my best friend and will do anything for the people she loves. Remember this, just starting her event floral business, Laura offered to do the florals for my and Mindy's weddings at cost. Which, when you know the work that goes into planning, ordering, prepping, and arranging flowers, is an incredible gift. When she got into town for my wedding, Laura worked tirelessly in my kitchen the day before my wedding. We talked, I helped where I could, and it was a memory I will never forget to see my maid of honor create magic. Despite not being terribly close to Mindy, I still wanted her to feel included, and at this point of time, I felt kind of guilty for not having Mindy in my bridal party. Mindy's fiancé decided not to come to our wedding, something about PTO, so I offered to let Mindy stay at my house with the bridesmaids the night before. Mindy rolled up around 11 p.m. the night before my wedding, barged in demanding someone park her rental car for her. Because she drives a Tesla now, she forgot how to parallel park and then asked me to make her food. She then shares that she's picking up a puppy the day after my wedding. My fiancé said no, but that made me want to get one more. I found something in my fridge for her and redirected my focus to Laura and writing my vows. During my wedding, she wasn't much more of a problem. She constantly complained about things going on with her own wedding, but otherwise, she was palatable. My wedding was a blast, and we were excited to go on a little honeymoon after Mindy's wedding down in Florida. The lead up to Mindy's wedding sucked for a few reasons. Reason 1. Mindy's initial wedding venue was badly damaged by a hurricane, November wedding on the Gulf Coast of Florida. Reason 2. Mindy has ADHD, and she uses this to rationalize being a constant mess. Reason 3. Mindy is a complainer, but does nothing to change her situation. Laura and I are planners. Laura and I had Pinterest boards for our wedding since middle school. We make itineraries, and we hold the shit together. I guess that's why our relationship with Mindy worked well for a while. We would plan, she would arrive and complain about something. So when the venue was destroyed by the hurricane 2 months before her wedding, Laura and I hopped in the phone with Mindy, and from across the country, and we tried to help her pick up the pieces. Another venue was available across the street with the same company. She could use all of the same vendors. What felt like a major snafu ended up being easily resolvable, but the same decorations just couldn't work with the new venue, according to Mindy. So all of the florals Laura designed needed to be replanned and redesigned. And after the hurricane, the local floral vendor Laura was trying to work with became increasingly difficult. So the decision was made that Mindy and Laura would drive Mindy's Tesla 5 hours round trip the day before the wedding in the morning to pick up the flowers from a different wholesale. It would be a fun road trip and a great chance for Mindy and Laura to catch up after living over 2,000 miles apart for the past 2 years. I had questions about the Tesla's storage and battery life capabilities, but this endeavor didn't involve me. Laura and I booked a big house with a pool to be used as a getting ready spot, and a place for the bridesmaids to stay together the night before the wedding, after the rehearsal. I booked a rental car and coordinated logistics with Mindy and Laura. Laura and her husband would get in later than my husband and I, so Mindy would pick them up from the airport. There was no reason for Laura or her husband to be registered drivers on the rental car we were splitting, because they would be taking Mindy's Tesla to get the flowers to the next day. We would fly in, pick up the car, grab dinner with some family who happened to live in town, and check into the rental house. Mindy would bring them to the house later. Plans were finalized, deposits were paid, flights were booked, plans were set, it was go time. My husband and I had an uneventful flight, pick up our rental car, and head to our VRBO. It was gorgeous, and the owner surprised us with a new screen around the pool. It was awesome. Looking back, I wish we would have just stayed at that damn house and enjoyed ourselves. We drop off our belongings, get changed, and bop on over to dinner with family. We have a wonderful time catching up. I keep checking my phone, expecting a message from Laura or Mindy about their estimated arrival time. For context, Mindy's house was about 45 minutes away from our rental, but our rental was only about 15 minutes from the wedding venue. It was convenient for wedding day, but less convenient to go back and forth to the bride's house. After an almost 3-hour dinner, I still haven't heard anything, and it's getting late. So I call Laura. Hey, did you make it down okay? When are you guys coming to the house? Hey, we're at Mindy's. Let me check with her. Mindy says she can't bring us to the rental house anymore. Oh, okay. We'll come get you. So we drive to Mindy's. Mindy is excited and bubbly. She's talking a mile a minute about the wedding activities. We're confused why Mindy couldn't drive Laura to our rental as promised, but we decide it's not worth an argument. Laura and Mindy were supposed to go to the grocery together, but apparently that hadn't happened either. Oh, and Mindy didn't pick up Laura from the airport as promised either. Mindy's fiancé had to pick them up because Mindy got lost on her way to a spray tan appointment that was 2 hours away. Deep, breathe, patience. The bride has been through a lot, we say. We will be patient with Mindy. We will see her again in the morning when she drives Laura to get the flowers. Myself, Laura, and our husbands find a Walmart that's open late. We grab everything we need for a mimosa and brunch bar wedding morning snacks and lunches, and we head back to our rental. Laura calls Mindy when we get back to make plans for their floral road trip in the morning. Mindy can't go. She's overwhelmed. She can't drive 5 hours round trip the day before her wedding for the floral arrangements her maid of honor would be doing at cost for her wedding. I call the car rental company. We can't add additional drivers. My husband or I need to drive. Deep breathe. Okay, my husband and I were both supposed to work remotely from the VRBO that day, but now we were the drivers. The next morning, myself, Laura, and my husband drive the 5 hours round trip. We fill the car with boxes and boxes of flowers and greenery. When we get back, we help Laura process and prep the flowers for arrangement, and then we get ready for the rehearsal. The plans for the rehearsal were never finalized or shared with us. A month prior, Mindy had called me crying about not being able to find a rehearsal dinner venue. I had offered to take this off of her plate, during my wedding month, mind you, and I called around. I made her a spreadsheet of places with availability, cost, contact info, address, you name it. So when we learned there would be no re-cereal dinner, we were shocked. After a sloppy rehearsal, Mindy arrived in Birkenstocks with disheveled hair and athleisure on. We were told that we would be having after-rehearsal drinks at a brewery down the street. We walk to the brewery where we tell the bar manager we're there for the wedding party. The bar manager politely informs us that no event has been scheduled, and we're lucky they're open because they were originally supposed to be closed for a private event that got cancelled. It was buy your own beer, and hope to get something from the food trucks outside. We had planned to pop out of the after-rehearsal drinks to spend some time with other family members at a hotel bar nearby, and we were incredibly grateful they served food. When we came back, Laura and her husband still hadn't been served food, despite waiting in the food truck lines for a half hour. Laura and I rounded up the other bridesmaids and told them how excited we were to have a girls' night that evening. How our husbands were going to all hang out together at the bride and groom's house, and we would be drinking wine, arranging flowers, and swimming beneath the stars at our rental. The other bridesmaids hadn't heard anything about this, despite Mindy claiming to have told them, and they were planning to stay at their hotel. Disappointed, we went back to Mindy to discuss this. What was the plan? Mindy told us to head on back to our VRBO, and she would meet up with us later and bring the vases Laura needed to complete her arrangements. Okay, we head back to our house, and Laura gets back to work. I help her with the boutonnieres, and my husband and I go on an angsty walk to smoke a shitty cigar and complain about what a shit show this trip has been so far. It's getting late, and still no word from Mindy, so we call her. She has a migraine. She won't be leaving her house. We express our frustration with the situation, and she hangs up on us. Laura still needs those damn vases. Fuck those vases. Fuck this wedding. Fuck this bitch. But the show must go on, I suppose. Our husbands head out to collect Mindy along with the vases and other floral supplies needed, and they drive the hour-and-a-half round trip, Mindy doesn't show her face. The guys our husbands were supposed to be celebrating with drop the box of supplies in their hands and usher them on their way, ready to resume their groomsmen get-together. At this point in time, we realize we're just vendors to Mindy. Laura stays up until 2 a.m. finishing the arrangements. I pass out at some point around midnight. The next morning, hair and makeup arrive at 6. The bride is nowhere to be seen. She's decided to arrive much later. When Mindy finally shows up, she looks like she's been hit by a truck. The woman doing my makeup whispers, were you excited on your wedding day? I've never seen a bride like this. Yikes. The makeup turns out great. I don't think the hair girl had any experience, and I had to completely redo that disaster. We shove a mimosa into the bride's hand and begin to pack up the car with florals. Laura needed to assemble the archway. We get to the venue, and Laura works her magic. Somehow, this shit show of a wedding is starting to feel real and incredibly beautiful. The bride arrives and begins to get dressed. Her gown is beautiful, but she never got it altered. She had this dress on hand for a year and never got it fucking altered. When she bends over, you can fully see down her dress, and she's stepping on it as she walks. We begin to take photos, and then Mindy trips on her dress once again. In frustration, she hurls her heels across the lawn and demands that someone get her sneakers. Her sneakers, it turns out, she never tried on, or even opened the box, because the security tag was still on the shoes, and this was now making her world crumble. After screaming about this completely preventable occurrence, and how someone needed to help her, it was finally time to get this shit show over with. Her veil fell off as she walked down the aisle, and the ceremony was the quickest wedding I've ever attended. No personal touch, nothing. I do, smooch. Done. We proceed to cocktail hour, and I beeline it for the bar. I'm done with this weekend, done with this bride, and ready to celebrate Laura's birthday the next day and go on my goddamn honeymoon in Key West. Moments before dinner, Mindy approaches my husband and requests a favor. Can he find the batteries needed for their Polaroid camera? Of course she didn't get batteries for the camera. Once again, the husbands are off on a side quest. They walked all around the city to find a super specific type of battery. While they're gone, dinner is served and they barely make it back in time to eat. But thank fucking God Mindy has her stupid Polaroid camera in addition to the professional photographer on site. The first dance comes. The song is something Mindy got from TikTok, with no meaning to her. The garter toss comes. The MC instructs all men, married or not, to head to the dance floor. The bouquet toss comes, same thing. All women to the dance floor, for the photos. Everything was for the photos. There was a big fake exit for the photos. Mindy disappeared to the bridal suite halfway through the night to sit and feel bad for herself that everything wasn't perfect. And her new MIL was a bitch. To her credit, her MIL was a bitch. She wanted the entire party to stop so her grandchild could take a nap. As soon as we could leave, we did. We got back to the house, opened a bottle of champagne, and celebrated that shit show being over. But there was one more wedding activity. Mindy kept talking about a big catered brunch the day after the wedding, which also happened to be Laura's birthday. My focus was making sure Laura has a good birthday, and I didn't give a shit if I ever talked to Mindy again at this point. Laura wanted to give her one more chance, so we decided to go. The big brunch was a platter of Chick-fil-A nugs and a box of donuts at their community pool. It was a joke. When we arrived, the groom was running around trying to get some of his groomsmen to go out and buy him a suit, because their honeymoon cruise had a formal night and he had nothing to wear. It was ridiculous, and Mindy just disappeared. I was done. I ushered our party back into the car and took Laura to a real brunch. We just sat in silence. I've never seen Laura more pissed in my life. After the wedding, I never talked to Mindy again. Laura chose to forgive her, but Mindy only reached out when she needed something. It was a transactional relationship at this point. Mindy held a grudge against me because I told someone at the wedding she was being a bridezilla. Facts. And I honestly wouldn't be surprised if I called her a cunt to someone as well. I gave 0 fucks by the end. Asshole move? Maybe. Probably. When the wedding photos came out, I had somehow simply vanished from the bridal party. I was impressed. Her photographer's photoshopping skills were incredible. This week, nearly 2 years after the nightmare, Mindy's relationship status on Facebook officially changed back to single.